When you don't like them and they don't like you, the tension in the room is almost thick enough to cut with a knife. You feel it in your shoulders, in the way you tighten your jaw, in the way your words start forming before you've even thought about how they're going to land. Talking to someone who doesn't like you, or someone you don't like, isn't just awkward, it's exhausting. It stirs up emotions you'd rather not deal with, and it can make you question your own composure. But here's the thing, sooner or later, you will find yourself in those moments, and how you choose to handle them says more about you than it ever will about them. The first thing to remember is that dislike is not always permanent. Sometimes it's a misunderstanding, sometimes it's a clash of personalities, sometimes it's jealousy or assumptions or simply two people on very different pages, and sometimes, yes, it is personal. Maybe you did something that rubbed them the wrong way. Maybe they did something that rubbed you the wrong way. Either way, standing in that space where tension lives gives you two choices. You can make the situation worse by letting your emotions take control, or you can choose to manage yourself in a way that leaves you with no regrets. Talking to someone who doesn't like you is not about convincing them to like you. It's not about proving them wrong. It's not about defending every corner of who you are. It's about showing up in a way that keeps your dignity intact. That's it. If you go into the conversation with the goal of winning them over, you've already lost because you've placed your self-worth in their hands. But if you go in with the goal of staying steady, respectful, and clear, then you walk away with your head high, regardless of how they respond. One of the best tools you can use in these moments is restraint. When we feel disliked, our first instinct is to defend, to justify, to explain. But over-explaining rarely changes someone's mind. In fact, it usually convinces them that their negative perception was right. Instead of flooding the moment with words, slow down, take your time, respond carefully. Silence, when used intentionally, is powerful. It gives the other person space to reveal what they really think, and it gives you the chance to respond with control instead of reaction. Control is everything in these moments. You can't control whether someone likes you. You can't control their assumptions, their history, or their perspective, but you can control your voice, your posture, your tone. You can control whether you raise your voice or keep it calm. You can control whether you let sarcasm slip into your tone or whether you keep it professional. Every choice you make communicates something. And when you're dealing with someone who doesn't like you, those choices are amplified. If they're looking for a reason to dislike you more, don't give them one. Think of it this way, every interaction is like putting a brick down. You're either building a wall or a bridge, and sometimes the bridge doesn't mean friendship. It doesn't even mean reconciliation. It just means you can walk past each other without burning everything down. And in many cases, that's enough, that's a win. Now, when you're the one who doesn't like them, the responsibility doesn't disappear. You can dislike someone and still treat them with basic respect. You can dislike someone and still listen when they speak. You can dislike someone and still respond with clarity instead of contempt. Dislike doesn't give you a free pass to be cruel. In fact, if anything, it gives you a test. How do you handle yourself when it's hard to be gracious? That's where real character shows up. Sometimes it's not even about words. It's about the way you carry yourself, crossed arms, rolled eyes, heavy sighs. Those speak louder than anything you'll ever say. And the person across from you sees it, they feel it. When you're in a conversation with someone who doesn't like you, and you don't like them, the room becomes a mirror. Whatever energy you give, they'll reflect it right back. So if you give irritation, they'll return it. If you give respect, maybe, just maybe, they'll meet you there. Respect doesn't mean agreement. It doesn't mean you suddenly erase the reasons you don't like them. Respect just means you've decided not to lower your standards, no matter how low theirs may feel, and when you do that, you stop fighting for their approval and start standing in your own. There's also the temptation to avoid these people altogether, to just shut down and withdraw. And while sometimes distance is the healthiest option, life doesn't always give you that luxury. You might work with this person, you might live near them, you might have mutual friends, you might even be related to them. So, running away doesn't solve it, it just delays it. At some point, you will have to open your mouth and speak. So the real skill is learning how to talk without letting dislike dominate every sentence. Here's a simple trick. Keep the conversation anchored in purpose, not personality. If you're at work, stick to the task at hand. If you're in a family setting, stick to the event or the plan. If you're in a social situation, keep it light and surface level. You don't have to dive into deep waters with someone who doesn't like you. Keep it functional, keep it respectful, keep it short if you need to. Purpose gives the conversation boundaries, and boundaries keep you safe from unnecessary conflict. Another thing to remember, their dislike may have nothing to do with you at all. People carry baggage, they carry grudges, they project. Sometimes you're just the nearest target for feelings that were never meant for you. And if that's the case, you don't want to inherit their burden. You don't need to pick up their negativity and make it your own. That's why it's so important to detach your sense of worth from their opinion. If you can look at them and think, this is about them, not me, you free yourself from the need to control what they think. Now let's talk about when the dislike is mutual and unavoidable. You both know it. You both feel it. Every time you speak, it feels like a test. In those moments, the best tool you have is clarity. Say what you need to say it clearly, and then stop. Don't decorate it with sarcasm. Don't lace it with hidden jabs. Don't stretch it out longer than it needs to be. Just clarity. The cleaner your words, the less room there is for conflict to grow. Sometimes you'll be tempted to win, to prove yourself smarter, sharper, or stronger. But winning with words rarely feels like winning in the long run. Because even if you get the last word, what did it cost you? Did you walk away proud of yourself, or did you walk away feeling like you stooped to their level? Sometimes walking away steady, calm, and unshaken is the bigger victory than walking away right. This doesn't mean you let people walk over you. Boundaries are not optional here. If someone is being disrespectful, you don't have to smile and nod. You can calmly say, I don't appreciate that, or that's not necessary. You can set limits on how much of their behavior you're willing to accept. But you don't have to scream to set a boundary. You don't have to throw an insult to protect yourself. In fact, the quieter and clearer you are, the more powerful the boundary becomes. There will be times when you misstep. You'll say something sharp. You'll roll your eyes without meaning to. You'll walk away thinking, I could have handled that better. That's okay. You're human. What matters is that you keep practicing. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is progress. Every time you handle a tough conversation with a little more control, a little more grace, a little more calm, you get better at it. And maybe, just maybe, you'll notice something surprising. Sometimes when you consistently treat people with respect, even if they don't like you, they soften. They may not become your best friend. They may not even become neutral. But the edges of their dislike start to dull. They start realizing that you're not here to fight. And even if that never happens, you'll notice something even more valuable. You've changed. You've become stronger, steadier, more confident in yourself. And that's worth far more than changing anyone's opinion of you. So when you don't like them and they don't like you, talk anyway. Talk with restraint, with clarity, with respect. Don't waste energy trying to win them over. Don't waste time trying to prove your worth. Just keep your dignity, keep your calm, and keep moving forward, because at the end of the day, the measure of your character isn't how you treat the people who like you. It's how you treat the people who don't. So here we are, standing at the end of all this, and I want to bring it back to something simple. Talking to people you don't like, or to people who don't like you, is one of the hardest things you'll ever do, not because of them, but because of you. It pulls at your pride, it pokes at your insecurities, it stirs up every part of you that wants to snap back, defend, prove, or withdraw. It's uncomfortable and it feels unfair, but it is also one of the clearest mirrors of who you are and how much control you really have over yourself. Think about it. Anybody can be kind to someone who adores them. Anybody can be patient when the room is filled with people who nod and smile and validate every word they say. Anybody can stay calm when they feel respected and admired. That's easy. There's no test in that. The test comes when you're in front of the person who doesn't see your worth, who doubts you, who dismisses you, or maybe just flat out irritates you. The test comes when the voice in your head is screaming for you to say something sharp, and instead you decide to take a breath and speak with control. That's where your real strength lies, not in winning battles, but in mastering yourself when the battle is happening inside of you. And here's the truth: you will never run out of people you don't like. You'll never run out of people who don't like you. Life is not built to give you harmony everywhere. Workplaces, families, neighborhoods, even friend groups. There will always be friction somewhere. You don't get to control who those people are, but you do get to decide how you show up in the friction. You can walk into those moments adding fuel, or you can walk in as the one person steady enough not to ignite it. That's a choice you make every single time, and the more you practice it, the easier it becomes. The real shift happens when you stop making it about them and start making it about you, not in a selfish way, but in a responsible way. Because if you're always trying to change how they see you, you'll stay frustrated. You'll keep throwing words at a wall hoping they stick. But if you focus instead on how you see yourself and how you carry yourself, suddenly the weight of their opinion doesn't crush you anymore. You stop giving them that much power. You stop saying, I need them to like me in order to feel steady. And instead you say, I can be steady no matter how they feel about me. That's freedom. That's peace. And peace isn't found in avoiding these people altogether. Sure, sometimes distance is wise. Sometimes it's necessary. But peace isn't the same thing as running away. Real peace is being able to stand face to face with someone you'd rather avoid and still carry yourself with respect. Real peace is walking away from the conversation knowing you didn't lose your cool, you didn't betray your standards, and you didn't shrink into silence either. Real peace is not them changing, it's you staying. You see, people who don't like you are not your enemy. They are your training ground. They're the weights you lift to grow stronger. They're the sandpaper that smooths the rough edges of your character. They force you to stretch into patience you didn't know you had, into humility you didn't want to use, into control you didn't believe you could maintain. They are frustrating, yes, but they are also necessary. Because without them, you'd never get to test yourself, you'd never learn what you're really made of, and don't confuse restraint with weakness. Some people will tell you if you don't clap back, you're letting them win. If you don't stand up louder, they'll walk all over you. But the loudest voice in the room is not always the strongest one. Sometimes the strongest person is the one who says less, but says it with absolute clarity. Sometimes strength is not proving you're right, but proving you can rise above. Because the truth is, when you keep your dignity in the middle of someone else's dislike, you've already won. You've won because you didn't let them change you. You've won because you didn't hand them the keys to your peace. Think about the kind of person you want to be remembered as. Do you want to be remembered as someone who always had to win the argument, always had to get the last word, always had to match every ounce of negativity thrown your way? Or do you want to be remembered as someone who carried themselves with a calm strength, who knew when to speak and when not to, who didn't let other people's dislike turn them bitter? That's the legacy of these conversations. Every single one leaves an impression, not just on them, but on you, and over time, all those small moments stack up to the kind of reputation you build, the kind of person you become. So when you talk to someone you don't like, or someone who doesn't like you, don't see it as a battle. See it as practice, practice for patience, practice for clarity, practice for respect. See it as an opportunity to prove to yourself that you can stay steady in the middle of discomfort. Because if you can learn to do that there, then when the stakes are even higher, when the tension is thicker, when the dislike is deeper, you'll already be equipped. And maybe that's the bigger lesson here. Your goal is not to walk away liked, your goal is to walk away proud. Proud that you didn't shrink, proud that you didn't explode, proud that you didn't let someone else's opinion control the version of yourself you brought into the room. Because at the end of the day, their dislike says something about them, but your response says everything about you. So the next time you find yourself face to face with someone who doesn't like you, or someone you don't like, remember this: you're not there to win them over. You're not there to win the argument. You're there to win yourself. And that victory is quiet, it's calm, it's steady. It doesn't always feel flashy in the moment, But when you walk away, when you lay your head down at night, that's the kind of victory that lets you sleep in peace. And in the long run, peace is worth more than being liked. Peace is worth more than being right. Peace is worth more than proving yourself to someone who was never going to see you clearly anyway. Peace is the prize, and you win it every time you choose restraint over reaction, clarity over chaos, dignity over disrespect. That's the real conclusion. That's the real answer.